9. Mabel was so distracted by her conversation with Sivan that she practically forgot about the creepy encounter in Twyla's bedroom. She unlocked the front door with the porch key, let herself and Twyla inside, and robotically went to the kitchen to make a snack. Mabel handed Twyla a plate of oatmeal cream pies and was about to take a seat on the couch when they both heard a voice drifting down the stairs. "Want to play a game?" Twyla's head turned slowly, knowingly. "No," Mabel said, anticipating Twyla's request. Twyla ignored Mabel and slid off of the couch, setting the plate of cookies on the table. "Absolutely not, Twyla," Mabel argued. "No going upstairs." She stood in Twyla's way. "I want bones," Twyla said, firmly. "Then ask Christy later. But right now, no way. Bones stays up there, and you stay down here. The end." Twyla turned and went the other way to circumnavigate the table. Mabel took 2 steps to the side to block her from going any further. "I'm going upstairs now," the little girl insisted. "No!" Twyla flashed her characteristically evil grin. "What are you going to do to stop me? Spank me?" Mabel's blood ran cold. This kid. Twyla walked past Mabel to the foot of the stairs. Mabel ran over and put her arm across the entry. "Stop!" Mabel shouted. Twyla leaned forward and bit Mabel's arm. "Ow!" Mabel shrieked. Twyla giggled and ran up the stairs into her room. "Fine," thought Mabel as she rubbed her arm. "Let the kid get eaten by her daddy closet monster. Game. Game. Game." Bones's low voice muttered in a loop. Mabel closed her eyes. What would Sivan do? Call 911? They would never believe her, and they would probably take too long, if they were willing to go to Spite Lane at all. Mabel realized that if Twyla were in danger, she'd have to try to save her. It was her job. She was the babysitter. She was the one responsible for Twyla if anything happened. Mabel had to go upstairs. Slowly, Mabel dragged her feet up step by step. As she climbed the stairs, she heard noises like small animals scuttling around the room. And she saw the same yellow light from before growing brighter and brighter. There was an echo as Twyla devilishly giggled. Mabel felt sweat roll down her cheek, and she plastered her back to the wall outside Twyla's bedroom door. The yellow light began to flare and strobe. There was a squealing, scraping sound like something digging into the wood floor. Mabel peeked around the door frame over her shoulder. As before, Twyla sat in bed. The closet door stood ajar, and everything in the room moved towards the closet as though pulled by an invisible force, like the closet had its own gravitational pull. The scraping noise was the sound of the bed legs gouging the wood as they dragged across the floor. Mabel realized that if she did nothing, the closet was going to swallow Twyla whole, and that couldn't be a good thing. Mabel closed her eyes and began to count down. 3, 2. She leapt into the room, attempted to sprint towards Twyla, but sure enough, the room spun like a clothes dryer all around her. It was as though Twyla and her bed were above Mabel, instead of ahead of her. Mabel turned and fell sideways, her forehead hitting the floor. Then she started to slide towards the closet, too. At all of this, Twyla clapped and laughed. Mabel reached out and desperately grasped Twyla's bed leg with the tips of her fingers. She held on for dear life. Kicking her legs up, she managed to get a foot over the end of the bed. She yanked as hard as she could, hooking the spindles at the foot of the bed with her elbow. Twyla screamed in fervent delight. A clock radio from Twyla's bedside table whipped through the air and slammed against the wall next to the closet. It glowed in undulating colors as it played a warbled tune. Children sang, "Stay, stay, forever we stay. We promised not to go away." Eerily, Twyla began to sing along. As Twyla sang, the brilliant light emanating from the closet began to strobe, faster and faster. Mabel could barely see, but she looked back over her shoulder anyway. What she saw made her scream. The opening to what had once been a closet was now a giant face. The demonic face of Bones, with a gaping maw that roared and sucked and tried to swallow them up. "No! Leave her alone!" Mabel yelled. "Twyla, get out of here! Run!" But Twyla, seemingly immune to the supernatural forces, just laughed. Mabel felt completely helpless. In seconds, they would both be dead. Mabel's fingers were giving out, and she was about to throw in the towel when Christy Thomas appeared out of nowhere. She ran into the room and launched herself at the closet door, slamming it shut with a vicious roar. The world instantly righted itself. Up was once again up, and down was once again down. Mabel crashed into the floor and rolled, wrapping herself up like a burrito in the bedsheets. Miss Thomas ran to Twyla and scooped her up, but Twyla began to kick and punch in protest. Although the closet door was shut, the light behind it still strobed, flashing against the wood floor and flickering on Twyla's strained face. "That's enough," the woman yelled, trying to get a handle on the girl. "We have to get out of here, once and for all." "No!" Twyla screamed, still flailing. "I want to stay. I want to be with Daddy. I want to stay in this house." As Christy Thomas locked the girl in her grasp, she looked over at Mabel. "Go! Get out of here!" Twyla protested. "Stay!" The closet door began to groan. Mabel realized the wood panels were starting to bulge. The wood crackled as it started to split. Yellow light shone through the tiny fissures. She flexed her arms and legs, pushing herself free from the sheets. "I hate you! You're not my mom!" screamed Twyla to Christy. As if to accentuate her anger, there was a pounding that came from inside the closet. "You can't make us leave!" The top panel of the door ruptured, and yellow light poured through. "Stay," commanded a voice in the closet. This time, Mabel knew it wasn't Bones. Not really. It was something else. It was the voice of the haunted house itself. Twyla squealed. "Daddy! That's not your daddy!" Miss Thomas yelled. "I don't know what that is, but it's not him." "Stay," Forever. The voice boomed. Daddy! I want my daddy! All over again, the direction of gravity shifted. Mabel felt the room spin. Christy Thomas looked at Mabel and screamed, "Go!" Before she was upside down once more, Mabel made a run for the staircase. She thought the woman and child were on her heels, but when she looked back at the bedroom, she saw they hadn't yet made it out the door. There was a huge crack as the closet door gave way, turning into a gaping, salivating mouth that violently sucked in everything around it. There would be no slamming it shut this time. Like a whirlpool, the force pulled Miss Thomas and Twyla backwards into the room. Mabel, with one hand on the bedroom doorframe, reached for Miss Thomas with the other. "Grab my hand!" she yelled. But taking Mabel's hand meant Christy would have to take one hand off of Twyla. As soon as she did so, the little girl took advantage and wiggled herself out of the woman's grasp. "Twyla, no! Please!" Christy yelled. "Please! I love you! Don't do this! No!" As Twyla disappeared into the hungry mouth of the closet monster, Christy Thomas screamed, "My baby!" She reached back for the missing girl in vain. "Give me your other hand," Mabel yelled at Miss Thomas. "Hurry!" But the woman looked at Mabel with resignation. "I can't," she shouted over the din. "We're a family. We belong together." She relaxed the hand holding Mabel's, let go, and vanished beyond the closet door. The closet light went out, and the door abruptly reassembled itself. Everything in the room fell in a heap to the floor. The world returned to normal. And Mabel Mandal, dizzy and reeling, walked straight over to the stair railing and barfed. Mabel sat on the floor of the hallway in a daze, not knowing how much time had passed, when she finally felt like her legs were solid enough to stand, and she had gathered enough courage to look through the bedroom door. There was nothing to see. Twyla's room looked undisturbed. Her bed was made. Stuffed animals crowded the toy basket. The closet door sat open, only a crack, and no light shone inside. There was no evidence of what had happened, and no sign of Twyla or Christy. Mabel didn't know what she was supposed to do. Should she have called 911? Would that have made a difference? If she called them now, she worried she would be blamed for the family's disappearance. Could the police send a 13-year-old to jail for murder? It isn't really murder if there aren't any dead bodies, Mabel thought, and she chuckled morbidly at the macabre thought. Her eyes naturally wandered up to the ceiling. She gulped in horror at what she saw. In a repeating pattern were bucolic scenes of a happy family. A woman, a man, and a child were having a picnic. Altogether, they were swinging in a hammock. With the child in the middle, they were holding hands and going for a walk. They were laughing and playing hide-and-seek under a canopy of trees. It wasn't just any family. It was clearly Twyla, Christy, and what Mabel assumed was Twyla's father. They were frozen in their happily ever after, until they slowly turned to Mabel and winked. All of them, in every scene. Mabel screamed. As the people in the wallpaper came to life across the room, Mabel heard a familiar voice coming from the closet. "Are you ready for—" "Nope," she thought, and Mabel ran.